You're getting $2,071 a month from Social Security. That's the average for a retired worker in January 2026. And if that number sounds close to what's hitting your bank account, you're earning less than you should be. The average is not the target. The average is what happens when 53.8 million retired workers, many of whom claim too early, worked too few years, or never corrected errors on their earnings records, get blended into one misleading number. The maximum benefit for someone who retired at 70 in 2026 is $5,181. At full retirement age, it's $4,152. Even at 62, the earliest possible claiming age, the maximum is $2,969. If you're sitting below $2,071, you rank in the bottom half of all American retirees. And the distance between where you are and where you could have been, or still could be, comes down to 5 specific factors that the Social Security Administration calculates but never clearly explains to you. The SSA publishes average benefit data every single month through their monthly statistical snapshot. As of April 2026, the average retired worker receives $2,081.16 per month. But that number hides a brutal spread. The minimum possible benefit, the special minimum benefit for workers with at least 11 years of coverage, starts at $52 per month. The maximum sits at $5,181. The gap between the bottom and the top is $5,129 per month, or $61,548 per year. That's not a difference in luck, it's a difference in information. Your benefit amount is locked into a formula called the primary insurance amount, your PIA, which is derived from your average indexed monthly earnings, your AIME. The AIME takes your highest 35 earning years, adjusts each one for wage inflation using the National Average Wage Index, and averages them across 420 months. Then the SSA applies a 3-tiered replacement formula using bend points that change annually. For 2026, those bend points are $1,286 and $7,749. The first $1,286 of your AIME is replaced at 90%. The portion between $1,286 and $7,749 is replaced at 32%. Everything above $7,749 is replaced at just 15%. If you're currently receiving less than $2,081 per month, there are exactly 5 reasons that can explain why, and at least 2 of them are correctable even after you've started collecting. I'll cover all 5 in the next 20 minutes, but one of them, the one I'll get to in the second half of this video, involves a form that fewer than 8% of eligible seniors have ever filed. That form alone has recovered an average of $128 per month for people who used it correctly. Problem 1, you claimed early. This is the single biggest reason Americans land below the average. Roughly 30% of men and 34% of women claim Social Security at age 62, the earliest possible age, according to the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. Claiming at 62 permanently reduces your benefit by up to 30% compared to waiting until your full retirement age of 67. That reduction is baked in forever. It doesn't reverse at 67. It doesn't disappear at 70. Donald Pryor, 64, from Gainesville, Florida, claimed at 62 in 2024. His PIA at 67 would have been $2,440 per month. By claiming 5 years early, his actual benefit was reduced to $1,708, a permanent loss of $732 every single month. Over a 20-year retirement, that decision cost Donald $175,680 in total benefits he'll never receive. The solution, for those who haven't claimed yet, is straightforward but painful. Wait. Every month you delay past your full retirement age, your benefit grows by 2/3%. That's 8% per year between 67 and 70. A $2,440 PIA at 67 becomes $3,026 at 70. The difference between Donald's actual benefit at 62 and what he'd receive at 70, $1,318 per month. That's not a theoretical gap. That's $15,816 per year in real deposits. I'd be curious to hear, at what age did you start collecting Social Security? Because in the comments on our last video about claiming strategies, hundreds of you said you wish someone had shown you these numbers before you filed, and many of you said you didn't even know delaying was an option. Problem 2, you have fewer than 35 earning years. The SSA's formula requires exactly 35 years of covered earnings. If you worked 30 years and then retired, the SSA doesn't ignore those 5 missing years. It plugs in 5 zeros. Those zeros dilute your AIME, your average indexed monthly earnings, by approximately 14.3%. On a benefit of $2,000, that's a reduction of roughly $286 per month caused entirely by years you didn't work. Barbara Strickland, 66, from Albuquerque, New Mexico, raised 3 children and re-entered the workforce at 38. She worked 27 consecutive years as a hospital billing coordinator, earning between $38,000 and $52,000. Her AIME includes 8 years of zero, dropping her monthly benefit to $1,612 when it could have been $1,940 with a full 35-year record. The difference, $328 per month, or $3,936 per year for the rest of her life. The solution, if you haven't yet claimed, keep working. Every additional year of earnings can replace a zero in your 35-year window. Even one more year at $40,000 can boost your benefit by $30 to $60 per month permanently. 2 or 3 more years can compound that gain significantly. The SSA recalculates your AIME automatically each year you file earnings. No form required. Wait, it gets worse for a specific group. If your early earning years had very low wages, say $6,000 to $12,000, those years might actually be dragging your average down more than a zero from a modern perspective because the indexing formula can't inflate a $6,000 wage from 1978 enough to compete with current earnings. In that case, additional working years at today's salaries don't just replace zeros, they push out your weakest years entirely. Thomas Hartwell, 71, from Memphis, Tennessee, collected $1,840 per month for 3 years without questioning it. He assumed the SSA calculated everything correctly. In January 2026, his daughter, a payroll specialist, pulled his earnings record from My Social Security at ssa.gov. She found 2 problems. First, his employer from 1994 to 1999, a regional plumbing supply company that went bankrupt in 2002, had reported 0 earnings for Thomas in 1996 and 1997. Thomas still had his W-2s in a filing cabinet. Those 2 years showed combined earnings of $61,400. Second, a clerical transposition from 2004 showed $28,300 when his actual earnings were $38,200, a $9,900 discrepancy. Thomas filed Form SSA-7050-F4, the request for Social Security earnings information, to initiate the correction process. He submitted copies of his W-2s and a written explanation. The SSA corrected both years. His recalculated AIME increased his PIA by $94 per month. The SSA paid him retroactively for the months of underpayment, a lump sum of $3,384 deposited directly into his account. $94 per month. That's $1,128 per year. Thomas was losing because a defunct company reported bad numbers 2 decades ago and nobody caught it. The SSA doesn't audit your earnings record. They don't flag discrepancies. They calculate your benefit based on whatever numbers their system contains, accurate or not. If an employer reported wrong, if a year shows 0 when you know you worked, if a number looks lower than what you actually earned, the error persists until you challenge it. If any of this made you want to check your own earnings record, and I mean today, not someday, then tapping the like button takes 2 seconds and tells the algorithm to push this to other retirees who probably haven't looked either. There are 53.8 million retired workers collecting benefits right now. How many of them have errors sitting uncorrected? The bigger problem behind Thomas's story isn't carelessness, it's design. The SSA puts the burden of proof on you. They maintain the record, they calculate the benefit, but if the record is wrong, they won't tell you. You have to discover it yourself, prove it yourself, and file the correction yourself. Some tax professionals estimate that between 3% and 5% of all earnings records contain at least one reportable error. Others put the number higher for workers who changed employers frequently during the 1980s and 1990s when electronic reporting was inconsistent. Problem 3. Your earnings never reach the taxable maximum. The Social Security wage base in 2026 is $184,500. Any earnings above that cap are invisible to Social Security. You don't pay FICA tax on them, and they don't count toward your AIME. But the reverse is also true. If your highest earning years topped out at $50,000 or $60,000, your AIME will be proportionally lower than someone who consistently hit or exceeded the cap. Imagine you earned $55,000 per year for 35 years. After indexing, your AIME might land around $5,200. Apply the 2026 bend points. 90% of $1,286, $1,157, plus 32% of the remaining $3,914, $1,252. Your PIA, approximately $2,409. That's respectable, above average. But someone who earned at the wage cap for 35 years would have an AIME near $12,000, producing a PIA of approximately $3,822. The gap exists entirely because of lifetime earnings, and it explains why the average check sits at $2,081 while the maximum sits at $5,181. This isn't fixable retroactively. You can't go back and earn more in 1998, but it explains your rank, and it eliminates the mystery of why your neighbor's check might be $800 higher than yours despite retiring at the same age. Problem 4. The gender gap is real and structural. According to the SSA's annual statistical supplement published in 2025, the average monthly benefit for retired men is $2,401 compared to $1,924 for retired women. That's a $477 monthly gap, $5,724 per year, and it persists across every age bracket. At age 70, men average $2,400 per month, while women average $1,940. At age 80, men receive $2,485, while women receive $1,965. The gap reflects lifetime earnings differences, years out of the workforce for caregiving, lower average wages during peak earning years, and fewer years at or near the taxable maximum. It isn't a bug in the formula. It's the formula accurately reflecting an unequal earnings history. I know these numbers paint a picture that feels permanent, like wherever you rank is where you'll always be. But that's not entirely true. The formula recalculates. Corrections get processed. And for married, divorced, or widowed beneficiaries, there are alternative benefit calculations that can push your check higher than your own work record would produce. This next section, a lot of people skip it because spousal and survivor benefits sound like they only apply to certain situations. Don't skip this. If you were married for at least 10 years and are now divorced, or if your spouse earned significantly more than you, this 90-second explanation could raise your check by $400 to $1,200 per month. Problem 5. You haven't explored spousal or survivor benefits. If you're currently married and your spouse's PIA is higher than yours, You may be entitled to a spousal benefit equal to 50% of their PIA at your full retirement age. If you're divorced but were married for 10 or more years, you can claim a divorce spousal benefit on your ex-spouse's record, and they never find out. Carolyn Marsh, 72, from Portland, Oregon, collected $1,480 per month based on her own work record. Her ex-husband, married for 16 years before divorcing in 2003, had a PIA of $3,200. Carolyn qualified for a divorced spousal benefit of $1,600, $120 more per month than her own record produced. She switched to the spousal benefit by contacting the SSA at 1-800-772-1213 and requesting a benefit comparison. No one told her this was possible. She found out from a video exactly like this one. If you've made it this far into this video, you're someone who actually wants their correct benefit, not just whatever number the SSA handed you. Subscribing means you'll see the follow-up video I'm releasing on the exact process for correcting your earnings, record and filing, Form SSA-7050-F4, step by step, because that process connects directly to everything we've covered about AIME calculations and how errors reduce your check. For widows and widowers, the calculation is different and often more generous. A surviving spouse can receive up to 100% of the deceased spouse's benefit, including any delayed retirement credits the deceased earned. Glenn Nakamura, 76, from Sacramento, California, lost his wife Margaret in 2025. Margaret had delayed claiming until 70, receiving $3,340 per month with her delayed credits included. After her passing, Glenn, who had been collecting $2,180 on his own record, switched to a survivor benefit of $3,340, an increase of $1,160 per month that he would never have received had Margaret claimed early. Now here's what nobody connects, and this is where the 5 problems reveal a pattern that goes beyond individual mistakes. Problem 1, claiming early, and Problem 2, fewer than 35 years, interact destructively. If you claim at 62 with only 30 years of earnings, you're combining a 30% early claiming reduction with a 14% AIME dilution from 0 years. The compounded effect isn't 44%. It's worse because the 30% reduction applies to an already deflated PIA. Barbara Strickland from earlier would have received $1,940 at full retirement age with a full work history. At 62, with only 27 years, her benefit drops to $1,128, a $812 monthly gap from what a full career, full-age claimant would receive. Problem 3, low lifetime earnings, and Problem 5, spousal benefits, are linked in a way most people miss. If your earnings were modest, say you were a part-time worker, a caregiver, or worked in a field with lower wages, your own PIA might be lower than 50% of your spouse's PIA. In that case, your spousal benefit exceeds your own. The SSA doesn't automatically switch you. You have to know to ask. You have to request the comparison, and you have to do it yourself. Problem 4, the gender gap, connects to all of the above. Women are disproportionately affected by fewer working years, lower lifetime earnings, and underutilization of spousal and survivor benefits, which is precisely why the average female benefit sits $477 below the average male benefit every single month. The connected truth behind all 5 problems is this: the Social Security formula is precise, mathematical, and entirely indifferent to whether you understand it. It calculates what the numbers produce. If those numbers are wrong, it calculates wrong, and it doesn't apologize. If you claimed early because nobody explained the math, the formula doesn't care. If you have zeros in your record because you were raising children, the formula doesn't adjust. If your earnings record contains errors from a company that no longer exists, the formula uses the errors. Here's what to do this week. Monday, log into ssa.gov, Create or access your My Social Security account and download your complete earnings record. Compare every year against your own W-2 records or tax returns. Tuesday, count your years of substantial earnings. If you have fewer than 35, calculate how many more working years it would take to eliminate the zeros. Wednesday, if you were ever married for 10 or more years and are now divorced, call 1-800-77-21213 and request a benefit comparison between your own record and your divorced spousal benefit. Thursday, if you found any discrepancy in your earnings record, even 1 year, even a small amount, begin gathering W-2s, tax returns, or pay stubs and prepare to file Form SSA 7050F4. Friday, if you haven't yet claimed, use the SSA's online calculator at ssa.gov/OACT/QuickCalc to project your benefit at 62, 67, and 70, and write all three numbers down side by side. 5 days, 5 actions, 0 cost. The difference between doing them and not doing them is potentially hundreds of dollars per month for the rest of your life. Thomas Hartwell, the man from Memphis whose daughter found the errors, now receives $1,934 per month instead of $1,840. His rank among all retired workers moved from the 38th percentile to the 44th percentile based on the Bipartisan Policy Center's benefit distribution estimates. He crossed the average line, not because he earned more, not because he got lucky, because he looked. His daughter told him the whole process, pulling the records, identifying the errors, filing the forms, submitting the W-2s, waiting for the SSA to process the correction, took approximately 4 months from start to finish. 4 months for $1,128 per year more in benefits for the rest of his life, and a $3,384 retroactive payment for the years the error went uncorrected. The 2026 Social Security Trustees Report projects the OASI Trust Fund will be depleted by 2032. When that happens, unless Congress acts, every beneficiary faces an automatic 22% benefit cut. Your $2,071 becomes $1,615. Your $1,800 becomes $1,404. The check you're getting today, however much it is, may be the highest version you'll ever see unless the formula is defended. In the next video, I'm covering the 3 specific strategies that protect your benefit amount if the 2032 insolvency triggers automatic reductions, because there are filing decisions you can make between now and then that shield your check in ways most advisors aren't discussing yet. That video drops within the next 7 days. The average doesn't have to be your destiny, but it will be if you never check whether the number is even correct.